time to get to Arsenal now, and they are on the verge of completing a signing of defender Riccardo Calafiori from Bologna in a deal worth around £42 million. For more on this, we can speak to Italian football expert Mina Rzouki. Mina, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for coming on. Let's start with Calafiori. Tell us a little bit about what Arsenal are getting.
Oh, one of the finest Italian youngsters in defence. He proved himself to be such a great package and a player with an incredible winning mentality. He's really achieved so much success in this last year at Bologna and for the Italian national team. I think that all of us will mostly remember him for what he managed to do against Croatia. He was so important to Italy in the back line, playing as that centre-back, but also in just as an ability to be a playmaker, even from a defensive point of view. He knows how to break lines, he's tall, he is exceptionally physical, but at the same time, brilliant with his feet, technical, tactically intelligent, versatile, and a player who always wants to play until the final second, always progressive and with a great winning mentality. Honestly, Italy is sad to see him go, but he is an excellent, excellent player.
Well, you said winning mentality there. Tell us a bit about why he chose Arsenal. What was the driving force? Because we understand there were other clubs interested, even the likes of Real Madrid. Maybe that came in a little bit too late, that interest.
Well, with Real Madrid, I think their eyes were always on Lenny Yoro. So I think that was more to do with what his agents and others were trying to really leak to the media at the time. So I'm not sure about that interest, to be honest with you. But Juventus had clearly set their sights on him. They obviously brought in Thiago Motta, who was his coach at Bologna, who had managed to bring out the very best in him. Remember, he arrived from Basel for $4 million. He was a youth product at Roma at the time and let go. He had gone to Genoa for a little bit, then moved to Basel. And at Basel, they learned that really, honestly, his best position is at centre-back. Bringing him back for $4 million and then him managing to do all of that. So there was always question marks about whether he should be going to Juventus to play with the coach that really took the best out of him and made him this player that everyone set their sights on and allowed him to play for the national team. But in the end, it was Arteta's playing style, it was the money offered to Bologna, and it was their decision to sell abroad. And from those choices, Arsenal was the best fit for him.
Mina, good to see you as always. One thing that's really stood out about Calafiori is his flexibility in terms of positions he can play. He can play at left back, he's played at left wing back before, he's also played as part of a back three. Arsenal obviously have had an inconsistent situation at left back. Is that where you see him slotting in, or where else could he fit in?
Ideally, it would be a real shame to not see him play as a centre-back, because I think that is absolutely his best role. And that is what his old coach at Basel, Vogel, also said. He is exceptionally good in the left. Don't get me wrong. He's technical. He's fast, perhaps not as fast as other left backs would be. And he's got a great cross on him. But at centre-back, he has that position locked down, and I think it's the best role for him because of his tactical intelligence, because of his technique, because of his ability to break the lines. But like you said, he can play in all roles, including defensive midfield. So should Arteta choose to play with a three-man at the back or four men at the back, he can play anywhere on the left side. He can even play in defensive midfield because of his understanding of the game in general. But I think, being a left-footed player, you would ideally want to use him now, considering that there's a great partnership at the back for Arsenal in centre-back. So left-back is perhaps where he would be best suited, and he will definitely make the most of that role and really show you what he can do, especially with his crossing and his technique. But obviously for us, we would like to see him develop more in that centre-back role.
Mina, do you think he can start straight away in the Premier League, or do you think he'll need time to adjust?
This is a difficult question to answer, really. It depends on the amount of discipline, or let's say that the ability to understand what his role is by Arteta. If the tactics suit him, if he can be thrown into the deep end, I think absolutely, because his mentality is one in which he's a very hard worker and he's a complete package. He really believes in himself, and I think that's the difference. You saw, for example, with the Italian national team, there wasn't much belief in their abilities. He was the standout performer in that sense. He reckons himself quite a bit, and I think that confidence allows him to really hit the ground running. He made such a difference at Bologna, especially against the big teams. So I definitely know that he's not scared of any challenge, and it will really depend on the tactics because of where they would like to position him. But certainly I think that he can start the first match. I don't think he's going to find it too daunting.
Mina, a deal that's already been done this summer is Joshua Zirkzee to Manchester United. It's a big signing for them. Obviously, he's going to compete for that starting spot up top with Rasmus Højlund. Can you tell us a bit more about Zirkzee as a player?
Zirkzee is an interesting player because he's a nod to sort of your old school, technically perfect striker. Perhaps not a modern forward in the way that you would describe Rasmus Højlund. He's a player for Bologna where a lot of times he would drop deep and collect the ball. I think the best way to describe him nowadays would be a 9.5, because what he is a playmaker. He can very much do a lot of what Bruno Fernandes can do for Manchester United. He is a creative player. He is perfect in his layoffs, perfect in playing within a team. He reads game situations really very well. He was a Bayern Munich youth star, and he was very technically intelligent despite his big size. So he's very big up front, but doesn't perhaps always stay in the box. And there's been some criticism of the fact that he didn't score more than 11 goals and he wasn't starting for the Dutch national team. I think that has more to say about Ronald Koeman and his decisions than it is about Joshua Zirkzee, because honestly, he's quite a phenomenon at Bologna. He was very highly regarded for his intelligence, highly regarded for his technique and his adaptability. And he's a maverick of sorts. There's very little that he can't do, but it's Manchester United and he needs to be developed perfectly and allowed to play the role that suits him. So it's about how can he integrate with Bruno Fernandes. He likes to play in a front two, so Højlund and him could work well together. But he needs to suit the tactics, and Ten Hag has a big job on his hands.
Yeah, sounds like reasons to be excited for Manchester United fans then, Mina. Sticking with the sort of United theme, David De Gea, it looked like he was going to Genoa, but that is now off. I mean, what's happened there?
Well, this is very strange as well, because obviously he's taken a year out, and then all of a sudden there was all this news of Genoa who were looking for a goalkeeper, going for David De Gea, which is perfect because Genoa has such a great... The way that they've managed their last season has been brilliant to watch. They've got a brilliant coach in Gilardino, so they were always doing better than I think anyone expected them to do as a newly promoted team. And this was going to be a splash for them on the market. But unfortunately, David De Gea does come with a big name, despite the fact that he hasn't played for the last year. And according to sources, he's just asked for a little bit too much money, way more than they are prepared to pay or even have to pay. So I'm not sure if that deal is going to happen anymore, but otherwise it would have been a really perfect deal, and I think he would have really enjoyed his time there. But obviously salaries make a difference.
Yeah. Mina, lovely chatting to you. Always brilliant to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your insight, and we'll chat to you soon.
Thank you.
Just sticking, or kind of going back to Arsenal, starting off with Riccardo Calafiori, Kwaku. Hearing from Mina, I mean, sounds like a brilliant signing for Arsenal.
Absolutely incredible signing for Arsenal, and it's a coup because he was linked with so many big clubs, like you mentioned before. Real Madrid were interested in his services. He's a player just going to bolster this Arsenal first 11, this Arsenal squad as well. He brings so much in terms of defensive qualities, but he's also very good going forward and comfortable with the ball at his feet. And it speaks to what Arteta's done at Arsenal since coming in as manager. 18 of his 24 signings have been either goalkeepers, defenders or central defensive midfielders. And so he's trying to build that firm base at Arsenal because he knows that obviously attackers win games, but defenders win championships. And that's what Arsenal are trying to do right now. They're in the mode of trying to win titles. And I think Calafiori helps them do that.
Yeah. Nabeid, you were having a bit of a deep dive earlier on Good Morning Transfers, we were saying how versatile he is, looking at where he could possibly play for Arsenal. Interesting, Mina saying no, like we kind of want to see him at centre-back.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mina being an Italy fan, that does make a lot of sense. But I also think back to the great AC Milan team where Maldini played at left-back, who's an outstanding centre-back, but they had to ship him out there because they had Nesta and Stam at different times and they had other pairings. I think Calafiori might have to do that because you have Gabriel and Saliba who have this connection. But as I mentioned in the deep dive, when you come up against teams that are going to sit in, and more teams will sit in now against Arsenal, they will give them the respect. That's where it's actually fine to have a centre-back in there who can drive in possession alongside Saliba. You want two centre-backs that can play out really, so you can play out on both sides. That's where I might see him in that centre-back. But I do see long-term, I don't see how Gabriel loses his position. Sam was saying off air, last season he was unbelievably good, probably better than Saliba at times. Can't now drop him and bring in Calafiori because I don't think that's the 0.2% Arsenal need to increase on. It's that left back.
No, it's also going to be interesting, isn't it?
Also, team harmony. You know, you don't really want to throw off the best defence in the league last season. You know, they wasn't conceding goals. They were all fully fit. I think it makes sense if they're thinking long term in terms of they had a quality season, but no one really got injured in that defence, except from left-back, where they had to, kind of freestyle with Tomiyasu, Zinchenko, Kiwior there as well. But I think if he does come into the starting lineup, it will be interesting to see whether he starts at centre-back, whether they push him to left-back, where Jurrien Timber fits in all of this. That's what I'm more interested in seeing.
Yeah, obviously got Calafiori up here. We've got Eddie Nketiah as well and Emil Smith-Rowe. There are expected to be a number of outgoings. I suppose you could throw Reece Nelson into that mix. We could maybe throw Aaron Ramsdale in there.
Yeah, Eddie Nketiah, man on screen there, he's a player that has served Arsenal well over the last couple of seasons. Obviously got the new contract a couple of years ago, got the number 14 shirt as well. And when Gabriel Jesus went down with an injury a couple of seasons ago, he came in and he was an adequate backup. But at this point in his career, he needs to be playing first team football. And so a move, whether it's abroad, whether it's in the Premier League, is definitely best for his career. And Emil Smith-Rowe is also a player that has struggled to get into the Arsenal starting 11 since suffering an injury a couple of seasons ago. And so a move for those academy prospects looks like the best option for the club and those players.
Yeah,